Andrew Mack here with MMA Island. Today I'm with Lindsey Kelley, who's fighting for Cage Science on January 7th. Lindsey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. So tell me a bit about your background. How'd you get into combat sports?
So I actually had a coworker convince me to try boxing because when I got into college, I wasn't doing any sports. So I missed competing. I was just weightlifting and I missed the competitive side of athletics. And he convinced me to try boxing. So I started boxing and I fell in love with it. And it kind of took off from there as I made more friends at Evolution. And then I started kickboxing and then it moved into submission grappling and eventually it turned into wanting to compete in MMA and everything.
So how long have you been training for?
About 4.5 years.
All that evolution?
Yep.
So tell me about the vibe of evolution. Is it more of like a family type gym? Is it like a military regiment gym somewhere in the middle?
I guess I would say somewhere in the middle. We're definitely tough, that's for sure. But I mean, I've met some of the best people that I know in my life at that gym, and I've learned a lot there. And there's a lot of loyalty there, and you can see it. Pretty much everyone there is all like they all started at Evolution. I mean, it's very family oriented in a way, but it's also very tough. Nate's a tough coach, that's for sure.
So I've watched a couple of your other interviews in preparation for this, and you say the only thing to do in Maine right now is to really train. So is the gym really packed right now?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's been pretty busy. It's funny because our gym isn't like regular commercial gyms for like in the afternoon. Like it's really not that busy at all. Like it's pretty dead. But during like the nighttime, a lot of the classes have been super full lately. I know that we've had to change our schedule around because like we've had to add more boxing classes because there's just been so many people coming in to do boxing and we've added more like my buddy Trevor coaches a cardio kickboxing class on Saturday mornings, and it's been like full every morning for the last couple of weeks. But I mean, yeah, there's really not much else to do. So I think people are really getting to, especially with all like the New Year's resolutioners and everything.
So you had your debut a couple months ago at Nef 50.
Yep.
What was going through your head as you walked into that cage?
Not a whole lot, honestly. I was just kind of like, I was just kind of trying to be in the moment. I was a lot of just like white lights around me, and I was just kind of focused on, I was just thinking about how, it's just another Saturday. It's just another Saturday. It's team training. Like it's nothing, like it's not a big deal. And I just remember it kind of got real for me when my back was against the cage and I looked down and I saw them, like my opponent was in the cage and I saw them lock the cage, and I was just like, all right, we're in it. Let's go.
So the big, sorry, the biggest thing that I noticed, which I've already told you, but like you just had so much heart in there. Like it was so inspiring. It's inspiring me to want to take my fight in the fall. Where do you think that heart came from?
I'm a competitive person in general. I love competing, but I mean, when it comes to sports and especially this sport in general, I just feel like I just have such a fire inside of me and when it comes to fighting. Like I don't know, I can't really explain it. It's just something I kind of have felt in my stomach and in my heart like for the last couple of years now. And I've never really felt that about anything else. Like I played sports my whole life, and when it came down towards the end of like in high school and everything, I was really just doing it because that's what I had done my whole life. And I wasn't really passionate about it in any way. Like I played soccer and basketball my senior year, and I liked the sport itself, but it was the politics around it that really kind of killed my heart for it, and I just didn't love it anymore. And when I found this, it's like this is something like my coach always says, it's a journey that never ends, and I can see that and I can feel it, and it just leaves me always wanting to get better. And I think that's part of what drives me so much.
That's awesome. I've seen hundreds of MMA fights at this point, as my time as a journalist, and you've been the fighter that has the most heart in that cage.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So after your fight, even though you lost, you looked disappointed, but you looked proud. Can you explain your emotions there?
Yeah, I mean, earlier, like in the very beginning of 2022, I went to the NEF that was in Portland, and I remember watching my team. I was like in the crowd, and I remember watching my teammates fighting out there, and I remember sitting there and being like, oh my gosh, like I can't even imagine if I was up there one day. And literally later that year, I was on that exact stage in that exact cage doing exactly what I thought was never going to be possible. I had an opponent drop out twice on me for previous Cage Titans fights, and that was just really discouraging. And, it kind of started to feel like, oh, maybe this isn't going to happen. And so I think the fact that I got my chance to go out there, and I wasn't a deer in headlights. I went out there and I did what my coaches asked me to, and I wish I had gone even like to the second round, but I wish I had fought it off a little bit harder towards the very end. But I mean, the fact that I went out there and I made weight and I laid it all out on the line. I couldn't be more proud of myself. And I mean, it's my first fight and there's plenty down the road. So one loss isn't going to discourage me from anything. That's for sure.
Speaking of a deer in headlights, when you first charged your opponent, she looked like a deer in headlights.
I know. All I had in my head was just my coach being like, you got to make sure like every like everything you have inside of you that you're angry about, everything you got to pull it all out on the line, and that's kind of what I did, I guess.
It was awesome. So, talking about your January 7th fight, what was your reaction for Mike telling you, we finally got an opponent for you?
Oh my God, I was so excited because I've gone to Cage Titans multiple times and I've seen the venue and I've seen like the like everything around like just like my team going down there together, and I was like, dude, I can't wait for the one day that I get the chance to compete at Cage Titans. It's been, a long time coming at this point, and I'm so excited. I can't wait. And at this point we're only a few days out, so I'm so excited.
So, Cage Titans is also very media heavy. You were on Table Titans, you were on Matt AC, and now you're with me. How's the experience doing the media?
It's cool. It's definitely different. I've been interviewed for like local newspapers before for like high school sports, but this is definitely like interesting, like my name being out there and interviews of me being out there. It's kind of weird because earlier in the year when I was first like when I first knew about the fights that didn't end up happening, I was going through this weird version of like imposter syndrome where like I don't know, I just didn't really I felt like I didn't like I was living somebody else's life. It didn't feel real because for the longest time it was just like a pipe dream. Like I was like, oh, maybe this will happen, maybe it won't. But I mean, the fact that it's now finally happening, I'm sort of settling into it now. But it was all kind of I was just kind of going along with the flow for a while. Like I don't really know what to say, I don't know what to expect. But I'm just kind of like, all right, F it, let's just go with the flow.
So, Cage Titans has a smaller cage than other promotions. I think Neff has the same size cage, but do you think that smaller cage works better for your style?
As my coach says, there's less room to run away.
Yep.
So, I mean, when I got into the NEF cage, I was like, this is really small.
Yeah.
But I was like, it was smaller than I expected, honestly. But I was like, oh, it's not that big of a deal because, less room to run away. And the cage that we have at Evolution that we train at, it's literally half the size. Like, there's enough room for two people to stand in, and that's pretty much it. So, I mean, it didn't really bother me. I feel like being in a big cage would probably be a little more like, well, I'd be like, whoa, you know what I mean?
Uh, so, being a female martial artist, how do you feel representing female martial arts, women's martial arts overall?
I think it's really cool. So at Evolution we have like kids programs. So like there's a bunch of kids who come in and either will do like striking classes or like submission grappling classes. And there's been a couple of little girls who will be in there and they'll see me like with my gloves on hitting the bag or whatever. And I remember one time one of them came up like right next to me and she was watching me hit the bag, and then she was kind of copying me, and I was just like, oh, like right there, like I'm that person in her eyes where it's like, oh, she can do it, I can do it. So I think it's really cool like to have young girls see like more women in mixed martial arts, like showing them that, it's not just a guy sport. And even though it's primarily dominated by guys, like I still go in there. I have a few female partners, but sometimes they get injured, and I'm still in there with a lot of guys training all the time. It doesn't matter, but I think it's wicked cool. It really makes my heart happy to see that, and I hope that I inspire girls to be in martial arts and stuff like that.
So I teach at a karate dojo, and some of our best students are girls. They just seem to have much more potential than the guys. No offense to them. Do you have any perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, so I've worked with a bunch of different coaches, and one thing that one of my coaches, Rob Duro, told me, and he was like, I love working with women more because they tend to be more like sponges, and they're ready to just take everything in all the time, whereas guys tend to get stuck and they're like, oh no, I'm doing it right, I'm doing it right,
Yep.
I don't need to fix anything, whereas women will tend to be like, oh, okay, like, yeah, let me change this and this, or let me just take everything that you're saying and try to use it to the best of my ability. And I think that's part of it. I think it's different learning styles. But I mean, you have to be willing to go in there, like, especially with me, because I literally knew nothing. I had no background in mixed martial arts. I didn't do karate. I didn't do anything. I literally had to go in there and be like, all right, I know nothing. Like, I'm a baby. Like, show me everything. And I think that's one of the reasons I became so invested in it, but also how I progressed as fast as I did for the most part.
So with women's face-offs, especially at cage times, you always get very intense. Are you prepared for that?
Oh yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. Well, it's funny because like the first face off, I was waiting there for like at weigh-ins for everyone to go, and I was like, what am I gonna do? Where am I gonna look? I don't know what to do because it was all brand new for me, and I kept asking questions for my teammates. I was like, so what happens next? Because I just genuinely had no idea. It was really just like go with the flow, and I remember getting there, and I was like, all right, I guess we're just gonna do it. Let's go. So I'm excited, and again, the more experience I have, the more calm I'll feel.
So amongst the fans of MMA, there's a big stigma that women's fights just aren't good. Do you have an idea where that will come from? Is it like just a is it actually based on fact? Because there's fights like Namajunas versus the other one. I forget what her name is. Or is it just like an implicit bias thing? Because it's not they're not used to having women in the cage.
I don't know. For the most part, everyone I talk to, they always say that they look forward to women fights, especially in like the amateurs. I mean, I specifically in amateurs and in the UFC, I always look forward to the female fights because like I was talking to one of my girlfriends about it who also trains, and I was saying how I think the reason people look forward to female fights is because they tend to be less like rooted in like just full out brawling and just like overhand rights all the time, and they're a lot more technical because men tend to have that natural like biological urge just to like fight. You know what I mean? So it can be way easier to throw a guy in the cage and say, "Oh yeah, he'll be fine." Like whether he has the technique or not, he's got a killer instinct or whatever. Like girls train a lot more and rely a lot more on technique because we tend to be a lot more empathetic, especially towards our opponents. And I'm not saying every girl is like that. I'm just saying in general that tends to be like a difference. So I don't know. I personally don't think I've ever heard someone say, "Oh, I don't like women fights," and if it is, it's more just people who just want to see guys beat the crap out of each other. But for somebody who really loves the sport and understands the art of it, I think personally female fights tend to be way more entertaining.
I agree. Were you at the last, or did you watch the last Cage Titans event?
When was it?
Uh, October, I believe, like right around Halloween.
I don't think did I go to it?
There was a women's amateur title fight that was really awesome.
Oh, no, no, I didn't go to that one. I don't think I watched that one. I think I was supposed to be the only one fighting, and so when my opponent dropped out, nobody ended up going to it. So no, I didn't get a chance to watch that, but I did hear about that.
Yeah, that fight I think is just the one of the best women's fights I've ever seen, especially on the regional scene. That sums up why you should watch women's fights.
Oh, for sure. I don't doubt it.
So your opponent, Amanda Ferreira, she was ironically actually one of the first fights I ever watched as a journalist. So she originally trained out of KTA Nashua, now trains with Jake Pilla. And in her kickboxing fight with Carol Lynn Powell, she was a very like counter kicker based. How have you prepared for that style?
I mean, one of my teammates is very like kick heavy. As far as like she has a very like Adina, she has a super like experienced background in like kickboxing, and she's super kicky. So I mean, I've gotten plenty of training when it comes to dealing with that stuff. And it can be frustrating, but I have no doubt in my mind that I'll be able to handle it based on, you know, the training that I've been doing the last month or so and the things I've worked on since my last fight. So I'm excited. I mean, I think it'll be a very entertaining fight for sure. I like you know, the kickboxing style. I think it's always super entertaining.
Do you know what the size matchup is between you and her?
No, I do not.
Okay, well, find out on Friday then at the
Yeah.
face-offs.
I tend to not like I know who I'm like my coach will send a profile and I know who I'm fighting, but I try not to dwell on it too much. Like I don't want to like I have a tendency to overthink, so I try not to like focus on that. I only really try to focus on myself and like my training.
So in that kickboxing fight, she slowed down a lot in the third round. If this goes to the distance, do you think you're gonna have a much better third round than her?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we've been doing a ton of our coach is always hard on cardio and all that stuff. And, you know, he talks about, you know, you can walk out and have 5 fights, knock somebody out and like knock somebody out in the first round, every single fight. And then the minute you have a fight where you have to go all 3 rounds and you're not going to last, like that's a problem. And my coach ensures that that won't be a problem going through it. So
So if you win, what are your plans for your post-fight celebration?
margaritas and pizza. No, I don't know. I know that we have to drive home. I'm thinking that because my boyfriend and his buddies are gonna come down, I'm pretty sure. So we're either gonna drive home or get like a spot to stay at. But for the most part, I'm just gonna enjoy eating again.
How's that drive by there from Maine?
It's not bad. I mean, you guys are Plymouth is like really south of Boston.
Yep.
So like the first hour isn't that bad, but whether it's going through Boston or around Boston, that's probably when the trip gets a little tiresome at that point. But I mean, I traveled for softball all the time and it was always driving. We were always going to Mass or Connecticut, New Hampshire, all that stuff. So it's not weird for me to travel for sports at all. It feels very like I feel very at home doing it.
So I'm about halfway between Plymouth and Saco, and I'm about an hour and a half. So is it 3 hours for you?
2.5, 2:45, something like that. It depends on who's driving, really.
All right. So let's talk about outside of the cage. What do you do outside of the cage? What do you in your normal life?
So I'm a college student at USM currently. I ended up having to take last year off for health reasons, which I talked about in Cage Table Titans.
Yep.
But I'm back in school, which I'm very excited about. And I'm enjoying the break, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Kind of having to go through this weight cut and everything while I'm on break. It kind of timed out perfectly, honestly. But I do that, and then I'm a waitress, so I have two different jobs. I work at the Port Hole and Miss Portland Diner. Right now I'm just at the diner, because the Port Hole slows down a lot during the winter, but during the summer it's a great spot to be at. And then I also like anything creative. Like I like drawing, writing, painting, stuff like that. But that's kind of just what I do in my time that I'm not working out.
What's your college major?
Communications.
Nice. So we're gonna go just down through a list of favorites. If you want to give a story behind one, you can give the story. If you just want hit the favorite, move on. We can hit the favorite, move on. The fight on the card you're most excited for besides yourself.
Um, I don't know. I'm honestly pretty excited for Tyler's fight. I mean, it's a pretty hyped up fight, so I'm really excited to see him because he's relentless, and so it's always fun watching him fight. So I'm really excited for Tyler's fight.
Yeah, I was really disappointed to see the ref stop in the last 20 seconds of his last fight.
Oh, believe me, we were all very disappointed when that happened and very confused.
I saw, I don't know who it was, but I saw someone like yelling at Mike backstage afterwards. There's only 20 seconds left. You could have kept it going.
Yeah, no, that might have been Keegan, honestly. I was with him when he was talking to Mike about it.
Your favorite big league fighter?
Big league fighter, definitely Charles Oliveira. I love him, and I was so disappointed when he lost in his last fight. Like, I bought the fight, and I was at work, and I was watching it at work behind like the server station, and I was like freaking out the whole time. But he's definitely my favorite. I love him.
Your favorite regional fighter besides yourself or your teammates?
Let's see. I don't know. I don't know if I have one. I haven't like paid close enough attention to like local fighters as far as like people outside of my gym.
Your favorite submission to hit?
Favorite submission. Ooh. I don't know. Probably sorry, my cat's messing with the laptop. I don't know. I guess I like rear naked chokes, ironically enough. That's probably one of my favorites, especially if you can get it like my favorite is like sprawling down and then like circling around and taking the back. Like that's probably my favorite. That's my favorite move. Feels like it makes you feel like a ninja.
Your favorite fight to watch?
Favorite fight to watch. Anything that's Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz. Those fights are just absolute bloodbaths. And those are like when Conor was in his prime, any Conor McGregor fight was always entertaining to watch, except for like, I don't know, maybe the Aldo fight where he ended it in like 4 seconds.
What's the biggest thing that you learned from your last fight that you want to apply to this fight?
Something I've struggled with even in training, and me and my coach talk about it, is like not conceding. And I felt like the biggest thing I was kicking myself about was, I wish I would have fought it off. I only had 17 seconds left. Like I wish I would have fought it off more, the last choke, but I think I just kind of gave up in my mind at that point. And I hope in this fight I keep the mindset of, just keep going until like the very last like second. So I hope that you know what I mean? Like I hope that I fight everything till the very bitter end.
So when one of your hands is raised, win, lose, or draw, what do you want people to think when they hear the name Lindsey Kelley?
Well, I mean, we talk about this in the gym, and it's like, whether you win, lose, or draw, you want to make sure that that person never wants to step in the cage with you again. And that's kind of my goal. When it comes to fighting, I want people to be like, wow, like I might have beat her, but I don't ever want to step in the cage with her again.
Any teammates or coaches you want to shout out?
Of course, everybody at Evolution. I mean, I don't want to miss anybody, but Nate, Keegan, Chris Kramer, CJ, Bruce, all of my teammates, Teddy, Tyler, Mo, Ben, Adina, Kayla, Julian, everybody. And then, of course, my Brazilian Jiu Jitsu guys like Dan and Alyssa and Spencer and everybody there on both sides. I know that we always tease each other about whether we are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or striking, but at the end, we all have each other's backs and they're super supportive, so I love them all.
Awesome. Anything else you'd like to say?
I'm just really excited. Thanks for interviewing me, and I'm excited to be at Cage Titans. I'm excited to finally get my chance.
Of course, I'm very excited for your fight. See you on Saturday.
Perfect. See you on Saturday.